Treasurer Jim Chalmers is expected to use a speech today to warn of the fallout of higher US tariffs, but he's ready to work with the incoming Trump administration. Senior business correspondent Peter Ryan has the details.
Tariffs are designed to make imported products less attractive because those countries that are exporting, say to the United States, for example, will have to pay more, and they'll factor that into the goods and services, and they'll be added on to the prices that local consumers, for example, in the United States get. And that's sort of protectionism designed to make customers or consumers buy locally produced goods rather than the ones that are coming in. But these tariffs really are very much negotiation tools. We'll be seeing Donald Trump use these as negotiation tools. We've heard this right through the US presidential campaign. Whether or not he delivers on those threats or whether it's just an open threat to perhaps have him being seen as being the tough guy in the Oval Office. Keep in mind that we don't really know that much about what he's planning to do. He's got more than 2 months to go before he actually gets back into the White House for Trump 2.0, and it may take up to a year to even implement these, given that he has to appoint cabinet. These can be pushed through by executive order. Things like corporate tax cuts have to be ticked off by the House of Representatives and the Senate. But quite a few unknowns, but not surprisingly, Jim Chalmers has been saying, or will be saying, that Treasury's been modelling the potential outcomes, no doubt, which is actually good to know, and that they're ready to work, or he's ready to work with Donald Trump, as he would have been if Kamala Harris had won.
Yeah, so he's yet to speak about that, but we know what that is, and you've said that there. But how would these tariffs on Chinese goods by the US have an effect here in Australia? Can you explain that?
Well, most likely, because while Australia would perhaps be immune from a lot of the fallout, once tariffs hit China, potentially up to 60%, Australia could be caught right in the middle of a very nasty trade war when you consider the United States is our main or biggest ally. China's our biggest trading partner. If those US tariffs do impact the Chinese economy or hurt the Chinese economy, and China's economy is currently going through pretty tough times at the moment. Beijing announced another $1 trillion worth of stimulus to be rolled out, which shows how concerned they are about what's happening there, mainly from the impact of the real estate sector, which is under a lot of trouble. Now, if as a result China, they don't get enough stimulus, and China doesn't see the need to build more cities or have more construction, that could mean less demand for Australian commodities like iron ore and coal. And of course, the budget in large part is underwritten by those exports to China, tax receipts that come from those exports. So that's how we could be caught up in that. But of course, a trade war between the world's two biggest economies is not good for anyone. But we do know last time around in Donald Trump's first administration, there were exemptions negotiated, particularly in the steel area, that helped Australia. So it's a lot of diplomatic negotiations behind the scenes, and also there in the Oval Office, which means those bilateral trade negotiations are critical.
Yeah, so it could be a rollercoaster ride ahead on economic policies from Trump. How is Australia positioned to ride that?
Well, Jim Chalmers has been saying that here we have a flexible exchange rate. So if the worst came to pass, the exchange rate could be calibrated to deal with that. We have a fully independent Reserve Bank, and as we've seen in recent years, going right back to the pandemic, interest rates were cut to deal with what was the global fallout from the pandemic. It was interesting just looking at Dr. Chalmers' comments about the independent Reserve Bank. Last Friday, the chairman of the US Federal Reserve, Jerome Powell, was quite defensive, and he had to actually come out and say that if Donald Trump asked him to quit his job as Fed chair, he wouldn't be quitting, and also he said that Donald Trump didn't have any power to sack him anyway. So we're seeing a bit of a tilt potentially by Donald Trump Trump at the world's biggest central bank. So a lot going on in the United States. But as we said earlier, there's a fair way to go before Donald Trump gets in there. But no doubt, as part of his transition into the second term, there'd be a lot of plans being hatched at the moment. And we could be in the line of fire, but we might well be immune from it as well.